Ready? Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm Doug Huntsinger. I am the Executive Director for Drug Prevention, Treatment and Enforcement, and Chairman of the Indiana Commission to Combat Substance Use Disorder. And this morning, I'm pleased to join Jay Chaudry, the Director of Mental Health and Addiction, in announcing more than $76 million in awards to expand and improve substance use disorder and mental health services for Hoosiers, and to strengthen Indiana's no wrong door approach to crisis care. The funds come from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act and the National Opioid Settlement, and will go a long way towards helping improve and building outcome care and crisis continuums here in Indiana. As part of the National Opioid Settlement, our team is awarding $19 million in one-time funding to 30 local units of government, service providers, and community organizations in an effort to support evidence-based prevention, treatment, and recovery and harm reduction services. While the state has a role to play in the fight against the drug epidemic, we know that real change happens at the local level. And anytime we have the opportunity to infuse dollars into a community to the benefit of Hoosiers, we take advantage of it. We received 78 proposals requesting a total of $93 million in response to the grant request that was put out earlier this year. And these programs that have been awarded and services funded by these grants will reach Hoosiers in at least 28 counties. The proposals had a wide range of requests, and there were many that are working to coordinate on a regional basis. However, due to the broad disparity of funding requests and services being rendered, recovery residents and peer recovery coaches were largely separated from these proposals, and we plan to issue separate requests for funding for both, with the first request for funding being released for recovery residences in July. Members of the media have received a breakdown of the recipients, the award amounts, and brief descriptions of how each community plans to use its award. We've also invited one of the recipients to share the work that's happening in their community and how these funds can help advance their efforts. Warren County Circuit Court Judge Hunter Reese has been a tremendous advocate for Hoosiers with substance use disorder and mental health in rural West Central Indiana. And Warren County has a proven history of wisely spending grant dollars to accomplish innovative programs, and we're excited to see how this community does the same with their funding. So thank you, and Judge Reese.
Thank you, Judge. Well, good morning. I'd like to begin by thanking Governor Holcomb and his administration for today's grant and the continued support of Warren County in our efforts to help individuals in recovery from substance abuse disorders. I've been asked to speak a little bit about our local efforts and how these grant funds will help. My colleague, Judge Stephanie Campbell from the Fountain Circuit Court, and I have the honor of presiding over criminal and juvenile courts in our counties in cases involving children in need of services. And we also oversee the state's only bi-county drug court. One of the challenges we frequently encounter is a lack of public transportation in our two rural adjoining counties, which poses a significant barrier to individuals in recovery. Last year, Warren County collaborated with our partners in Fountain County to address that very issue. Thanks to a generous transportation grant from the administration, we launched our groundbreaking Free Lift program, offering free rides to individuals within the justice system in Warren and Fountain counties. The program assists residents in accessing crucial services like treatment, group meetings, court obligations, child visitation, and employment opportunities. We owe our achievement in no small part to a partnership we formed with Community Action Program of Western Indiana, a local not-for-profit that had been providing transportation to seniors and the disabled to medical and essential appointments for over 30 years. Those grant funds enabled us to extend their transportation program to our justice-involved individuals. including expanding operating hours and providing weekend services, all free of charge. In the first 7 months, we provided over 500 rides to individuals in recovery in our justice system. And thanks to today's grant, we will be able to continue that program into 2025 and expand our efforts by providing community-based education, including substance abuse prevention programs within our Warren County schools through a partnership with our county health department. This comprehensive approach aims to address the root causes of substance abuse and provide for a healthier community in Warren County. I cannot emphasize enough the crucial role today's opioid match grant will play in a rural community like ours. In aiding individuals on their path to recovery and rehabilitation, often overlooked, transportation is a vital lifeline. It can provide hope, empowerment, and opportunity to those striving to overcome addiction. I'd like to leave you with a story about one such individual who I'll call Chris. Chris came to my court facing felony drug charges, unemployed, homeless, struggling with opioid use disorder, and without a vehicle or a license to get to needed services. Through our grant-funded programs, we found Chris stable housing, case management, and free rides through our free Lyft program that has enabled Chris to get and maintain a full-time job, to get transportation to local NA meetings and attend individual and group counseling. Later, Chris used the free Lyft program to attend court in a distant county for a hearing on specialized driving privileges, and then a ride to the BMV to get a new reinstated license, and even transportation to a local provider to help with a stressful driving test Chris would have to take. Today, Chris is 432 days clean in our program. Chris has stable housing, over 1 year of full-time employment, a car, and a valid driver's license. All of those simultaneously for the first time in Chris's life. And in no small part, thanks to the lifeline that this grant will provide to others. You see, transportation is not merely about getting from point A to point B. It is a lifeline in rural communities like ours to help Hoosiers like Chris get to, who are struggling with treatment or involved with our kids' courts, get to services they need. By investing this grant in accessible and affordable transportation in our community, we can offer a helping hand to individuals on the path to recovery. And for this investment, Warren County is thankful.
All right, thank you, Judge Reese, for that story and for sharing Chris's story. I think we get caught up sometimes in the numbers and forget about the real lives that are impacted here. So we appreciate you coming and sharing that story. My name is Jay Chaudry. I'm the director of the Indiana Division of Mental Health and Addiction, and I'm thrilled to be here to share some news about some other grants that we're giving out. So over the last year, the Indiana behavioral health community, which includes providers, advocates, patients, community partners, and all three branches of state government, have coalesced around a single vision for building the behavioral healthcare system that Hoosiers deserve. And this system is built on two parts. Number one, a comprehensive crisis response system in three parts: someone to contact, someone to respond, and a safe place for help. And the second part is expanding to the Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic model, or CCBHC, which has been demonstrated nationally to improve outcomes for both patients and communities. And the grants we're announcing today are an important step forward for both those goals. As far as the three-part crisis system goes, the someone to contact piece is up and running with our 988 call centers answering calls at a rate that is one of the highest in the nation. We have mobile crisis team pilots operating around the state with plans to expand those very soon. And today we're focused on the third part of that system, the safe place for help. And we're thrilled to announce 15 grant awards to community mental health centers around the state in urban, suburban, and rural areas, totaling more than $57 million And these grants will allow these centers to open and operate crisis receiving and stabilization services, or CRSS, in their communities. These are physical locations, a safe place for help, where individuals in crisis will be stabilized and connected with follow-up care. Too many Hoosiers today in behavioral health crises end up in a jail or in the emergency department. And CRSS offers a better way. And because crisis response is a key component of CCBHC, these grants will help our grantees accelerate their adoption of that model, bringing compassionate, evidence-based, and person-centered care to communities across the state. Our crisis response system is built on the no wrong door philosophy. This means that the system will be open and available to all Hoosiers in need of these services, regardless of diagnosis, history, or ability to pay. The General Assembly made a historic investment in behavioral health last session. And our next step is using that funding to build out entire crisis continuums where partial ones exist. So ensuring that a mobile crisis team is connected with a CRSS and vice versa. And our next speaker and her amazing team at Southwestern Behavioral Health are on the verge of making that a reality for their community. Please join me in welcoming Katie Adams, the CEO of Southwestern Behavioral Health.
Thank you, Jay, and thanks to DMHA for your ongoing collaboration and support of community mental health centers. Southwestern Behavioral Health Care is excited to partner with the Department of Mental Health and Addiction in the creation of the Southwestern Indiana Regional Crisis Receiving and Stabilization Program. This program will serve as a regional safe place for help, which is one of the 3 pillars that Jay was just talking about for the Indiana Crisis Response Network. Southwestern established the Crisis Stabilization Unit in March of 2022 to address mental health and substance use crisis needs in Evansville, which will be expanded with this grant to include the Southwestern Indiana region, as well as expanded walk-in and mobile crisis services anytime, 365 days a year. Since its inception, Southwestern's crisis services have provided 5,621 crisis contacts. That's just in the past year, of which 557 were mobile crisis responses and 376 included admissions to the existing crisis stabilization unit. Of those contacts, of those 5,600 contacts, only 0.4% of those crisis contacts resulted in a jail disposition, 0.4%. Building the crisis continuum in Indiana is already improving our ability to assure that Hoosiers are getting the care that they need when and where they need it, and improving our ability to assure Hoosiers are not having avoidable, like undesirable outcomes, like crowding our jails with those that have mental health crisis needs. We are excited to build on this success that is in part supported by a SAMHSA CCBHC Improvement and Advancement Grant. With DMHA's support through the CRSS grant, Southwestern will be able to increase staffing and expand our reach to more Hoosiers in the Southwestern Indiana region and allow for on-site walk-in availability at the Crisis Receiving and Stabilization Unit 24 hours a day. In addition to this expanded reach and availability, Southwestern will also be partnering with DMHA to pilot a new person-centered, trauma-informed violence assessment tool to develop evidence-based risk assessments for those presenting with potential risk to others. After training, development of workflows, and implementation of this violence risk assessment tool, Southwestern will be able to share best practices for person-centered, trauma-informed violence risk assessments in the community crisis receiving and stabilization settings throughout Indiana. We are grateful for this grant award and this opportunity to advance the crisis system in Indiana through the expansion of a safe place for help. I look forward to our ongoing partnership and collaboration with our state leaders. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Judge Reese and Katie, for sharing on behalf of your communities. And thank you to all our awardees for the work that you're doing across the state to improve outcomes for Hoosiers with behavioral health needs. With that, we would be happy to answer any questions from members of the media. So the people online can hear. Yes, please.
I was just hoping either you or Director Chaudry could clarify the source of the funding for the 57 million for the crisis centers. And I have another question too after that.
So short answer, it comes from the American Rescue Plan Act. Longer answer, it comes from the enhanced federal match assistant percentage from the Home and Community-Based Services Enhancement, which is a mouthful. So HCBS FMAP is the acronym for that.
So is this still some of the federal funding
This is still
from
federal
a
funding,
couple of
yes.
years ago?
Yes.
And then the second question on that, on the 15 grant awardees, how many of them are going to be launching new centers as part of this vision that you were discussing about behavioral health?
So it's a combination of expanding and new. I don't have those in front of me. I think there's a document that was given out which kind of details each individual grantee's plans. But I think most of them are new, but some of them are expanded.
Oh, I can ask one more. Sorry.
I know you can.
I was hoping to ask a question to the judge about the importance of, some people may question why a judge needs to play a role in ensuring that people have transportation to get to court, to get to employment, that kind of thing. I'm wondering about your motivation for ensuring that that's happening in your community and what role you play with discussing that with other judges who may be considering the same thing in their counties.
Certainly. At the end of the day, the court wants compliance. We want to see people in recovery. We want to reduce the burden that addiction causes on the community. If I can see someone who's homeless and engaged in criminal activity, turn their life around to where they're gainfully employed, they're meeting their child support or caregiving obligations, they're living a crime-free life, it makes our entire community safer. And if we could do all of that by giving them a lift to work or giving them a lift to an intensive outpatient treatment program for a few weeks, it's a collective good for our community and for everyone involved. And it's a net gain financially to the taxpayers.